America's national park system, sometimes referred to as America's best idea, and I'd have to agree. From Alaska to Florida, Maine to Hawaii, and even US territories, the National Park Service covers some 85 million acres. That's over 3.5% of the entire country, spread across 430-ish parks, sites, and monuments. Land that's mine, yours, and everybody's to enjoy. An idea that began with a single park in the US. An idea that has grown to over 6,500 national parks and an estimated 110,000 protected areas around the world. An idea that we should conserve what is most sacred for future generations to experience and enjoy. America's best idea. You're gonna see me looking down in this video quite a bit, just because I've got a lot of notes. I wanna make sure I don't mess anything up. So this whole idea started with George Catlin, who was an author and a writer. He was traveling the Great Plains in 1832 and depicted scenes of destruction of the wilderness, native culture, and wildlife through westward expansion, suggesting, quote, "a nation's park containing man and beast in all the wild and freshness of their nature's beauty." Though some small, specific conservation efforts did happen over the next few years, it took 4 decades for that idea to truly materialize. Yellowstone National Park became the world's first national park on March 1st, 1872, signed into law by Ulysses S. Grant. To protect Yellowstone and other early parks as they started to come about, forts were built and manned by US Army soldiers and cavalry. For the next 44 years or so after the induction of Yellowstone as the first national park, a handful of individual parks were created across the West and Midwest, and in 1916, President Woodrow Wilson created the National Park Service to promote and regulate the parks. The park system was further consolidated in 1933 by FDR, which brought all parks, monuments, capital parks, and memorials under the same umbrella. Included in the now 430 plus sites across the US, there are 63 national parks, the crown jewels of the national park system. These focus on unique national wonders and landscapes, and though they only make about 15% of the number of parks, they account for about 60% of the total land area held by the National Park Service. These are bucket list places that you've dreamed of visiting: Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, Denali, Everglades, Acadia. I'm lucky enough to have 3 national parks and about 9 million acres of national forest, which is Bureau of Land Management, not the National Park Service, but still semi-protected land in my backyard. Here are some quick facts about the National Park Service that you might not know. In 2024, the National Park Service welcomed nearly 332 million visitors, the most in its history. The #1 visited park is typically the Great Smoky Mountains, which had over 12 million visitors in 2024. The rest of the top 10 are Zion, the Grand Canyon, Yellowstone, Rocky Mountain, Yosemite, Acadia, Olympic, Grand Teton, and Glacier, in that order, with a combined 37 million plus visitors last year. The Blue Ridge Parkway, which connects the Great Smoky Mountains to Shenandoah National Park, accounts for about 16 million visits per year, and Golden Gate National Recreation Area tops the entire list of all National Park Service sites with just over 17 million visits in 2024. California has the most national parks with 9, followed by Alaska with 8. The highest concentration of National Park Service sites is Washington, D.C., with over 50 units in the metro area, including things like the Washington and Lincoln Memorials, Capitol Hill Parks, memorials for World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and Korea, and the White House itself. Yes, the American people own the White House. Other than some large consolidations like 1933 that we talked about, 1980 brought the most national parks in a single year with 10, most of those in Alaska. The largest park is Wrangell St. Elias in Alaska at 13.2 million acres, bigger than the entire country of Switzerland. The smallest, I'm going to butcher this name, but is Thaddeus Kosciuszko National Memorial in Philadelphia, just over 0.02 acres. The park system employs about 20,000 employees and supports 240,000 local jobs. There are also about 250,000 volunteers. So if you've got time, if you're retired or whatever, and love the national parks, not a bad idea. Maybe you want to spend some time volunteering in a local national park. The National Park Service budget is just over $3.5 billion. Only about 10% of that is recovered through admissions into the parks. However, the total economic impact in the localities where the parks exist is estimated at about $41 billion a year. Supporting the National Park Service is crucial for those who love the outdoors and hope that future generations can continue to enjoy them. If you are able, please support your national parks. The easiest way to do that is by visiting. You can buy a park pass or you can donate if you like. And again, volunteering would be huge. I'm putting the link for the NPS map in the description so you can easily find the closest park, monument, or site near you. One of the biggest things we have to talk about is entrance fees and costs because it is always changing and it's not the same in every park. A good chunk of the units that are not national parks have no entrance fees at all or very, very minimal fees, which makes them perfect to check out when you're nearby. You can just pop in and enjoy part of our national park system for free. For the parks themselves, again, it definitely varies. For example, Yellowstone costs $35 for an entire car for a 7-day span, or $20 per person if you come on a bike or walk in. Great Smoky Mountains, on the other hand, have no entrance fee, but they do have a parking fee if you park anywhere for more than 15 minutes. Obviously, there's not rangers watching everywhere, but be a good person. If you plan to park your car and enjoy a national park, just pay the fee. If you're looking to go to a national park, go to the National Park Service website. You find both information that you might need of where to go and what to do, but also it will tell you the fees that you can expect when you go into the park. Now, as of 2026, these fees are only for citizens and residents of the United States. Non-residents are charged an extra $100 per person for entry. Additionally, the free days for the parks that we all enjoy are no longer included for non-residents. This marks a major shift in how the parks have operated in the past, with there previously just being one set of prices for everybody. Personally, I don't mind the idea of out-of-country visitors paying a little bit extra. It's how it works in a lot of countries. When I travel abroad, I don't mind paying a little bit extra to help subsidize the locals so that they can enjoy their park. However, the amount of the extra cost will likely keep even more international visitors away and in turn reduce the revenue for the parks. From the way I read it, a group of 4 from another country visiting Yellowstone would pay $35 for the car, then $100 per person, coming to $435. That's a 1,200% increase on what a resident would pay. And it honestly makes it less likely that families will visit the parks if they come to the US at all. Making it $70 or $115 for a car seems reasonable. I think that's about what things are in other countries, 2 to 3 times what a local would pay. Our national parks are truly amazing and we shouldn't be pushing people out of them just for a few extra dollars. Now with that ran over, for anyone planning to visit more than one park over the course of the year, your best bet is to get an annual pass for $80. Non-residents can get an annual pass for $250, which puts it more in line with my thoughts of 2 to 3 times what a resident would pay. I don't see any reason for non-residents, unless you're a single person going to one park and then going back home, to not get the annual pass. It just seems to make sense. If you want to get the pass, you can get it ahead of time online. You can go to stores in the US like REI and some local sporting goods stores to buy a pass in person, or you can get it when you arrive at a national park. If you do end up ordering it online, do it far enough in advance so that you don't have to worry about it not getting to you before you have to leave for your trip. And seniors who are 62 plus get a really good deal. You can either pay $20 for an annual pass or $80 for a lifetime pass. I got about 20 years to go before that happens, but I know the day that I turn 62, I'm just gonna buy that forever pass and never have to worry about it until I forget where I put it and lose it. Now be aware that some of the 2026 America the Beautiful passes have photos of George Washington and the current president on them instead of the typical nature scenes that you would find. And that defacing them can lead to them not being accepted at the parks, though that is under park ranger discretion. The only statement I'll make on this either way is I firmly believe that National Park Service should not be influenced by partisan politics in any way. They should not be about one person, but all of us. If you are traveling here from outside the US for any reason, please know the situation here for foreigners is not great right now. And even some European countries have advised their citizens not to visit the US at the moment. For safety reasons, I would recommend postponing any trip to the US if you are not a citizen or do not have residency here. When you go into a park, almost all of them will have at least one visitor center where you can get maps, learn about anything going on in the park, and talk with rangers. You can typically find a gift shop as well with a lot of things you expect at any tourist attraction, shirts, books, magnets, etc. If you plan on visiting a lot of parks, either in a short period of time or over the course of your life, you can pick up one of these national park passports. They're really cool. There are a couple different versions. This one is the standard one. Inside you'll find general info about the parks, separated by region. And then inside there are places to put physical stamps and ink stamps as you explore the parks. We picked this one up for our 7-month-old and she's already got a few stamps in it. My wife and I don't have one of our own, but we did pick up this water bottle from Wondery Outdoors where you can add stickers to each park you visit. It's pretty cool. Memento, we usually keep it on display and so we haven't added any of the stickers. They're just sitting next to it on our shelf. But the bottles are in a few different colors. They're sturdy metal bottles if you want to take them with you on your adventures. I'm not sponsored by Wondery Outdoors. I just think it's a really cool concept and idea, and I would highly recommend it. Now, I have visited roughly a dozen of the parks and many of the ones in the West multiple times. If you're wanting to plan a trip to any of the parks, especially on the West Coast, I'd be happy to help you plan and book your trip. You can check the link in the description for my website or just leave a comment and I'll be happy to reach out to you. My personal favorite parks are ones with varied landscapes, a chance to see wildlife, and where, if you're lucky, you can feel like there's no one else for miles. Just a couple of hours from Seattle, one of my favorite parks I've ever been to is Olympic National Park. You won't be able to see everything in a day or two, but if you've got a few days or a week to enjoy the park, you'll be able to see old growth and temperate rainforests, mountains and waterfalls, rivers and lakes, sandy beaches, rocky tide pools. There's a decent chance you'll spot deer and or elk, eagles and other birds of prey, marine mammals, including whales off the coast if you're here in the right season, and the possibility of spotting a black bear or two, hopefully from a little bit of a distance. There are fantastic trails throughout the park and opportunities to kayak, relax in hot springs. It is a heavily visited park, but because of the size, you can find some solitude on certain trails, certain times a year. You know how it is. It's also the perfect park if you want to combine some active nature with city, as it's only a couple hours from Seattle, and you can even take a ferry to get over to part of the park. I would challenge anyone online to find me a national park, in the US at least, with greater diversity of terrain than Olympic National Park. For wildlife, Yellowstone cannot be surpassed. It is literally an American safari. Keep an ear to the ground or just talk to rangers and other visitors. You're likely to see brown bears and wolves along with more common bison and elk. Head into rockier terrain and do some little hikes and you can spot bighorn sheep, mountain goats. You might even get lucky and see a moose in the park, but that's more likely to happen north in Glacier in Montana. For solitude, Death Valley can make you feel very alone, partly because of the terrain, partly because of the weather. But honestly, it's the combination of those and what just feels like vastness and otherworldliness. It can give you the feeling that you're on a distant planet. We traveled to Death Valley a few years ago in September, and there were several times where there was no one else around us, and it was eerie, but it was amazing. Haleakala on Maui is a unique combination of a lush rainforest along the southeast coast of the island, with one of my favorite hikes in the entire world, alongside a mostly barren, dormant volcano that gets below freezing at night and scorching at midday. But watching the sunrise or sunset from the top of the mountain is beyond description, and hiking inside the crater gives views of different colored cinder cones, clouds being formed right before your eyes, and endemic silver sword ferns that grow nowhere else on the planet other than 2 mountains in Hawaii with different varieties. They live up to 90 years and bloom just once with a large purple flower stalk before they die. If you're hiking, you will see them. You may not see one in bloom, but if you do, find yourself lucky. These are some of my favorites, but each park has its own beauty and charm, its own draws and history, and honestly, though the 63 national parks are the crown jewels, you'd be amiss to overlook the other 370 national monuments, national preserves, seashores, lake shores, memorial parks, historical parks and sites, and recreational areas. Explore as much nature and history as you can when you can. Get out there on a long weekend for an amazing road trip, or just to cross an item or two off your bucket list. Take your family camping, load up the RV, or stay in a historic lodge or inn. The national parks are yours. You might as well take advantage of them. Seems like a pretty good idea to me. One last thing, when you travel to the parks or anywhere really, please be respectful. Pack out what you pack in unless there's designated receptacles for trash or recycling. Give wildlife space, and generally just don't be an idiot or a jackass. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it gave you some insight into the national parks, has you excited to visit as many as you can. Let me know in the comments if you have a favorite national park or if there's one that you can't wait to visit. On behalf of Exploration Travel, travel safe and take care.